merely offered you a portrait of it. It is possible to think of Buddha nature in these terms, but you must understand that whatever you can conceive or imagine must necessarily be unreal. Hence there is no other way than to experience the truth in your own mind. This way has been shown, with the greatest kindness, by Momen. Let us now consider Momen's comment. He begins by saying, in the practice of Zen, Zazen, receiving Dakyuzen, that is private instructions, hearing Teisho, these are all Zen practice. Being attentive in the details of your daily life is also training in Zen. When your life and Zen are one, you are truly living Zen. Unless it accords with your everyday activities, Zen is merely an embellishment. You must be careful not to flaunt Zen but to blend it unpretentiously into your life. To give a concrete example of attentiveness. When you step out of the clogs at the porch or the kitchen or out of the slippers of the toilet room, you must be careful to arrange them neatly so that the next person can use them readily even in the dark. Such mindfulness is a practical demonstration of Zen. If you put your clogs or shoes on absent-mindedly, you are not attentive. When you walk, you must step watchfully so that you do not stumble or fall. Do not become remiss. But I am digressing. To continue, you must pass through the barrier gate set up by the Dharma ancestors. Mu is just such a barrier. I have already indicated to you that, from the first, there is no barrier. Everything being Buddha nature, there is no gate through which to go in or out. But in order to awaken us to the truth that everything is Buddha nature, the great masters reluctantly set up barriers and goad us into passing through them. They condemn our faulty practice and reject our incomplete answers. As you steadily grow in sincerity, you will one day suddenly come to self-realization. When this happens, you will be able to pass through the barrier gate easily. The Momenkan is a book containing 48 such barriers. The next line begins. To realize this wondrous thing called enlightenment. Observe the word wondrous. Because enlightenment is unexplainable and inconceivable, it is described as wondrous. You must cut off all discriminating thoughts. This means that it is useless to approach Zen from the standpoint of supposition or logic. You can never come to enlightenment through inference, cognition, or conceptualization. Cease clinging to all thought forms. I stress this, because it is the central point of Zen practice. And particularly do not make the mistake of thinking enlightenment must be this or that. If you cannot pass through the barrier and exhaust the arising of thoughts, you are like a ghost clinging to the trees and grass. Ghosts do not appear openly in the daytime, but come out furtively after dark, it is said, hugging the earth or clinging to willow trees. They are dependent upon these supports for their very existence. In a sense, human beings are also ghost-like, since most of us cannot function independent of money, social standing, honor, companionship, authority. Or else we feel the need to identify ourselves with an organization or an ideology. If you would be a person of true worth and not a phantom, you must be able to walk upright by yourself, dependent on nothing. When you harbor philosophical concepts or religious beliefs or ideas or theories of one kind or another, you too are a phantom, for inevitably you become bound to them. Only when your mind is empty of such abstractions are you truly free and independent. The next two sentences read. What, then, is this barrier set up by the ancestors? It is Mu, the one barrier of the supreme teaching. The supreme teaching is not a system of morality but that which lies at the root of all such systems, namely, Zen. Only that which is of unalloyed purity, free from the superstitious or the supernatural, can be called the root of all teachings and therefore supreme. In Buddhism, Zen is the only teaching which is not to one degree or another tainted with elements of the supernatural, thus Zen alone can truly be called the supreme teaching and Mu the one barrier of this supreme teaching. You can understand one barrier to mean the sole barrier or one out of many. Ultimately there is no barrier. One who has passed through it cannot only see Jusha face to face. Since we are living in another age, of course we cannot actually see the physical Jushu. To see Jusha face to face means to understand his mind. Can walk hand in hand with the whole line of ancestral teachers. This line of ancestors begins with Mahakashyapa, who succeeded the Buddha. It goes on to Bodhidharma, the 28th, and continues right up to the present. Eyebrow to eyebrow is a figure of speech implying great intimacy. Hear with the same ears and see with the same eyes connotes the ability to look at things from the same viewpoint as the Buddha and Bodhidharma. It implies, of course, that we have clearly grasped the world of enlightenment. How marvelous! Marvelous indeed! Only those who recognize the preciousness of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Dharma ancestors can appreciate such an exclamation. Yes, how truly marvelous! Those who do not care for the Buddha and the Dharma may feel anything but marvel, but that cannot be helped. Who would not want to pass through this barrier? This phrase aims at enticing you to search for truth within yourself. For this you must concentrate day and night, questioning yourself about Mu through every one of your bones and pores. These figures reflect the thinking of the ancients, who believed that the body was constructed in this fashion. In any case, what this refers to is your entire being. Let all of you become one mass of doubt and questioning. Concentrate on and penetrate fully into Mu. To penetrate into Mu means to achieve absolute unity with it. How can you achieve this unity? By holding to Mu tenaciously day and night. Do not separate yourself from it under any circumstances. Focus your mind on it constantly. Do not construe Mu as nothingness and do not conceive it in terms of existence or non-existence. You must not, in other words, think of Mu as a problem involving the existence or non-existence of Buddha nature. Then what do? You stop speculating and concentrate wholly on Mu, just Mu. Do not dawdle. Practice with every ounce of energy. You must reach the point where you feel as though you had swallowed a red-hot iron ball. It is hyperbole, of course, to speak of swallowing a red-hot iron ball. However, we often carelessly swallow a hot rice cake which, lodging in the throat, causes considerable discomfort. Once you swallow Mu up, you will likewise feel intensely uncomfortable and try desperately to dislodge it. That you cannot disgorge despite your every effort. This describes the state of those who work on this koan. Because self-realization is so tantalizing a prospect, they cannot quit. Neither can they grasp Mu's significance readily. So there is no other way for them but to concentrate on Mu until they turn blue in the face. The comparison with a red-hot iron ball is apt. You must melt down your illusions with the red-hot iron ball of Mu stuck in your throat. The opinions you hold and your worldly knowledge are your illusions. Included also are philosophical and moral concepts, no matter how lofty, as well as religious beliefs and dogmas, not to mention innocent, commonplace thoughts. In short, all conceivable ideas are embraced within the term illusions and as such are a hindrance to the realization of your essential nature. So dissolve them with the fireball of Mu. You must not practice fitfully. You will never succeed if you do zazen only when you have the whim to, and give up easily. You must carry on steadfastly for 1, 2, 3, or even 5 years without remission, constantly vigilant. Thus you will gradually gain in purity. At first you will not be able to pour yourself wholeheartedly into Mu. It will escape you quickly because your mind will start to wander. You will have to concentrate harder, just Mu. 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 Again it will elude you. Once more you attempt to focus on it and again you fail. This is the usual pattern in the early stages of practice. Even when Mu does not slip away, your concentration becomes disrupted because of various mind defilements. These defilements disappear in time, yet since you have not achieved oneness with Mu, you are still far from ripe. Absolute unity with Mu, unthinking absorption in Mu, this is ripeness. Upon your attainment to this stage of purity, both inside and outside naturally fuse. Inside and outside has various shades of meaning. It may be understood as meaning subjectivity and objectivity or mind and body. When you fully absorb yourself in Mu, the external and internal merge into a single unity. But, unable to speak about it, you will be like a mute who has had a dream. A man who is mute is unable to talk about his dream of the night before. In the same way, you will relish the taste of Samadhi yourself but be unable to tell others about it. At this stage self-realization will abruptly take place. Instantaneously. Bursting into enlightenment requires but an instant. It is as though an explosion had occurred. When this happens you will experience so much. You will astound the heavens and shake the earth. Everything will appear so changed that you will think heaven and earth have been overturned. Of course there is no literal toppling over. With enlightenment you see the world as Buddha nature, but this does not mean that all becomes as radiant as a halo. Rather, each thing just as it is takes on an entirely new significance or worth. Miraculously, everything is radically transformed though remaining as it is. This is how Mu describes it. As though having captured the great sword of General Koan. General Koan was a courageous general who was invincible in combat with his blue dragon sword. So Mu says you will become as powerful as he who captures the blue dragon sword of General Koan. Which is to say that nothing untoward can happen to you. Through self-realization one acquires self-confidence and an imposing bearing. When one comes before the Rashi his manner implies, "Test me in any way you wish," and such is his assurance that he could even thrash the master. You will be able to slay the Buddha should you meet him and dispatch all Dharma ancestors you encounter. The timid will be flabbergasted when they hear this and denounce Zen as an instrument of the devil. Others, less squeamish yet equally unable to understand the spirit of these words, will feel uneasy. To be sure, Buddhism inspires in us the utmost respect for all Buddhas. But at the same time it admonishes us that eventually we must free ourselves from attachment to them. When we have experienced the mind of Shakyamuni Buddha and cultivated his incomparable virtues, we have realized the highest aim of Buddhism. Then we bid him farewell, shouldering the task of propagating his teachings. I have never heard of such an attitude in religions teaching belief in God. While the aim of the Buddhist is to become a Buddha, nevertheless, to put it bluntly, you can slay the Buddha and all the masters. You who realize enlightenment will be able to say, "Were the honored Shakyamuni and the great Bodhidharma to appear, I would cut them down instantly," demanding, "Why do you totter forth? You are no longer needed." Such will be your resoluteness. Facing life and death, you are utterly free. In the 6 realms of existence and the 4 modes of birth you move about in a samadhi of innocent delight. You will be able to face death and rebirth without anxiety. The 6 realms are the realms of Maya, namely, hell, the worlds of pretas hungry ghosts, beasts, asuras fighting demons, human beings, and devas heavenly beings. The 4 modes of birth are birth through the womb, birth through eggs hatched outside the body, birth through moisture, and birth through metamorphosis. To be born in heaven or hell, since it requires no physical progenitors, is birth through metamorphosis. Who ever heard of a heavenly being that had to undergo the trauma of being born? There are neither midwives nor obstetricians in heaven or hell. Wherever you may be born, and by whatever means, you will be able to live with the spontaneity and joy of children at play. This is what is meant by a samadhi of innocent delight. Samadhi is complete absorption. Once you are enlightened you can descend to the deepest hell or rise to the highest heaven with freedom and rapture. How, then, do you achieve this? Through Zazen. Devote yourself to Mu energetically and wholeheartedly. Persevere with all the force of your body and spirit. If you continue this way without intermission, you must not start and then quit. You must carry on to the very end, like a hen sitting on an egg until she hatches it. You must concentrate on Mu unflinchingly, determined not to give up until you attain Kensho. Your mind will, like a lamp flashed on in the dark, suddenly become bright. Wonderful indeed! With enlightenment the mind, released from the darkness of its infinite past, will brighten immediately. Wonderful indeed! Is added since nothing could be more wonderful. The first line of Mu's verse reads, "A dog, Buddha nature." There is no need for nature. A dog is Buddha is superfluous. A dog, Buddha still redundant. Dog. That's enough. Or just Buddha. You have said too much when you say a dog is Buddha. Dog. That is all. It is completely Buddha. This is the whole, the absolute imperative. That is to say, it is the authentic decree of Shakyamuni Buddha. It is the correct Dharma. You are this Dharma to perfection. It is not being begrudged, it is fully revealed. Once you begin to think has or has not, you are as good as dead. What does you are as good as dead mean? Simply that your precious Buddha life of oneness will vanish. Literally, no, not, have not, or nothing. The Yun Mu is voiced like the Yun put. Quoted in Zen Dust by Miura and Sasaki. Philosophies of India, by Heinrich Zimmer, edited by Joseph Campbell. Princeton, N. J. Princeton University Press. Occasionally devotees are permitted to listen to the commentary even though they do not participate in the sesshin. In some monasteries the formal commentary is given at times other than sesshin, but primarily for the resident monks. For the names of these books, see Koan in vocabulary section. Majjhima Nikaya. In ancient China, barrier gates were located on the main road leading to a large town or city, where one had to pass inspection before being allowed to enter. They were roughly comparable to present-day toll stations or immigration inspection stations. The monk evidently construed Joshu's mu to mean has not.